The war between Earth and the Varuni Empire had burned across the stars for years. Planets were destroyed. Cities turned to dust. The Varuni were strong, with high technology and numbers. But humans were from a death world, and their soldiers were different. They didn't break easy. Jack was one of them. He came from the burned lands of Nevada, where storms cut through stone and survival meant learning to kill early. He never talked much. He followed orders, killed when needed. His record was clean. His kills were many. When the final battle ended, Jack stood on the field, blood on his armor, smoke behind him. The Varuni command ship fell. Their leaders surrendered. Earth had won. A peace treaty followed, and with it came rewards for the human warriors. The Varuni offered gifts: gold, rare weapons, slaves, land. Most soldiers picked the strongest prizes. Jack asked for only one thing. He pointed to a girl standing among the captured. She was small, with pale skin and silver hair. She looked weak. Some thought she was sick. Her name was Alira. No one understood his choice. Why her? She did not speak. She could barely stand. She looked broken. Other soldiers laughed. They thought Jack had gone soft. They called her Ghost Girl. But Jack didn't care. He took her without a word. He gave her a small space in his tent. He never touched her, never asked questions. He watched. Alira stayed silent. She moved like a shadow. She never looked anyone in the eyes. She ate little. She did not sleep much. But Jack noticed things. She walked without making a sound. Her eyes were always scanning. Her hands never shook. One night, she stood outside while everyone slept. Her face turned to the stars. Jack watched her, hidden in the dark. He remembered a moment during the war. On a ruined planet, his squad was cornered by Varuni tanks. But then a strange figure appeared on a cliff. With a wave, the tanks stopped. All power shut down, and the figure vanished. Jack never told anyone what he saw. Now, he was sure it had been her. He said nothing. He waited longer. One night, she slipped away from camp. Jack followed. He moved like a ghost himself. She didn't notice him. She walked far into the woods past the last lights. There, in the dark, she met others. Not humans. Varuni. They kneeled when she arrived. She spoke in their language. Her voice was calm but strong. Jack watched from the shadows. His heart beat hard. He now knew the truth. Alira was not weak. She was not a slave. She was someone important, someone powerful, maybe a leader, maybe more. He didn't go back right away. He stayed and listened. She gave orders. The others listened. Then she left them and walked back to camp. Jack returned before her. No one knew he had left. No one saw anything. From that day, Jack stayed closer to Alira. He brought her food. He spoke simple words to her. She said nothing, but her eyes watched him more. The other soldiers thought Jack had fallen in love. They joked about it. They called her his little ghost queen. Jack didn't answer. He didn't laugh. He just stayed near her. He didn't choose her for her looks. He didn't choose her because he felt pity. He chose her because he knew. Behind the silent face and weak body was something more, something waiting. He didn't know when the truth would come out. He didn't know what she really was, but he would be ready. And when the time came, he would stand by her side. Jack woke before the sun came up. He checked his gear, checked the perimeter, and then checked on Alira. She was already awake, sitting in the same quiet way she always did. Her eyes met his for just a second, then looked away. She said nothing. Jack said nothing back. The soldiers at the camp were busy drinking and laughing. Most had stopped caring about safety now that the war was over. They were proud, loud, and careless. Jack stayed apart from them. So did Alira. When he brought her food, she took it without a word, but she ate it all. Jack noticed her hands were steady, her eyes always sharp. She moved slowly but with purpose. He had seen enough fighters to know how dangerous that stillness could be. Two men approached Jack while he was sharpening his blade. One was tall and full of pride. His name was Carl. The other was lean and cruel. He was called Nate. "Still playing babysitter?" Carl asked, laughing. Jack didn't answer. "You know, you could have picked someone better," Nate said. "She's not even fun to look at." Jack looked at them but said nothing. "Come on, man," Carl said. "What's the deal with her? Jack stood up. Both men stepped back without thinking. Jack didn't raise his voice. He only said, "She's mine." That's all you need to know. They left without another word. That night, Jack stayed up. He had a feeling something would happen. Alira sat by the fire, her eyes on the flames. When the others started to sleep, she stood and walked away into the trees. Jack followed again. She didn't notice. This time she went deeper. The forest was thick. Jack moved without sound. He kept his distance. Alira stopped near a fallen tree and waited. Soon, 3 varuni came out from the dark. They wore cloaks and carried no weapons. They bowed their heads to her. One spoke in a low voice. Jack couldn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. They respected her. They feared her. Lyra gave them something. A small black cube. It glowed for a moment, then stopped. The varuni took it and backed away. Alira stood still. Her eyes were cold now, not scared, not weak. She turned and walked away. Jack returned to camp ahead of her again. He sat by the fire. When she came back, he looked at her. She looked back. This time longer than before. The next day, the camp was uneasy. Strange sounds came from the forest. Soldiers started to whisper about enemy scouts. Jack knew better. He knew something bigger was moving. Carl and Nate came again. This time they looked nervous. "You hear that last night?" Carl asked. Jack nodded. "Something's out there," Nate said. "You think the war's really over?" Jack didn't answer. Later that night, Jack sat with Alira. He looked her in the eyes. "They're coming, aren't they?" She didn't speak, but he saw the truth in her face. "Are they here for you?" he asked. She nodded once. "Are they friends?" This time, she shook her head. Jack stood. "Then we need to be ready." She looked up at him. There was something different in her eyes now. Trust, maybe even respect. He began preparing weapons, checking traps, setting up alarms. Others thought he was being paranoid. But he didn't care. He knew what was coming. He gave Alira a knife. She looked at it for a long moment, then took it. "Don't run," Jack said. "Stay close to me." She nodded. Just before dawn, the alarms triggered. Screams followed. The camp exploded with noise. Shadowy figures came out of the trees, fast and silent. Not Varun, something else. Something worse. Jack grabbed Alira and pulled her behind cover. Gunfire filled the air. Soldiers fell. Some fought, many ran. Jack fired calmly, picking targets, protecting Alira. Then, out of nowhere, one of the attackers charged at them. Jack tried to shoot but was too slow. Alira stepped forward. She raised her hand. The attacker stopped in midair, frozen. Bones cracked. The body dropped. Jack stared at her. She looked at him. "They won't stop," she said. It was the first time she spoke. He nodded. "Then we won't either." He stood back to back as the second wave came. The attack didn't stop. The unknown creatures kept coming. They moved fast, without sound, and killed with sharp blades and claws. They were not like the Varun. They were something darker, something bred only for war. Jack and Alira fought side by side. She moved with calm power. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Each time she raised her hand, the enemy was thrown back or crushed. Jack covered her with gunfire, keeping the path clear. Many soldiers died. Some ran. The ones who stayed close to Jack survived longer. They followed his lead without question. Alira was no longer the quiet girl in the corner. No, they saw her for what she truly was. When the battle ended, the sun was rising, but the ground was red. Bodies were everywhere. No one cheered. No one spoke. They just stood in silence, looking at Alira. Carl walked up to Jack, face pale, clothes torn. "What is she?" Jack wiped blood from his face. "The reason we're still alive." Nate was wounded. He stared at Alira, fear in his eyes. "Why didn't she help before?" Jack looked at him. "Because she didn't trust us." The camp was broken. Supplies were low. Communications were dead. Jack took charge without asking. The others followed. No one questioned him now. He asked Alira where the attackers came from. She said they were from a dead sector, a place the Varuni had once used to build weapons. Those monsters were made there, forgotten, now awakened. They followed no one, she said. Only hunger. Jack understood. This was not about war. It was about survival. He called a meeting. The soldiers gathered. They listened. We don't wait for help, Jack said. No one's coming. We move. We fight. We follow Alira. Some didn't like the idea. One man spoke out. Why should we follow her? She's not one of us. Alira stepped forward. Her voice was clear. You follow me because I can lead you out of here. Or you stay and die. That was enough. Jack, Alira, and the soldiers moved through the forest. Alira guided them with strange senses. She seemed to know where the danger was. She avoided it with skill. Jack watched her every move. At night, she spoke more. Not much, but enough. Jack learned that she was not just part of the Varun. She had been born to rule. Her family was gone, killed in secret. She hid by pretending to be weak. It was the only way to stay alive. Why choose now to reveal yourself? Jack asked. Because you chose. She said, now I choose to fight. They reached an old Varuni outpost. It was broken but held weapons and power. Jack set guards. Alira activated the systems. Machines lit up. Walls stood tall again. The soldiers repaired their gear. They trained. They listened to Jack. They obeyed Alira. One night, Jack stood outside, watching the stars. Alira came beside him. You knew, she said. Jack nodded. Not everything, but enough. Why did you protect me? She asked. Jack looked at her. Because I saw who you really were, not what you showed. Alira said nothing. But her eyes stayed on him longer than before. A new day came. Scouts returned with news. The enemy was coming again, and more of them. Stronger, faster. And this time they knew where Jack and his people were hiding. Jack spoke to the soldiers. We fight here. We hold the line. No more running. Alira stood beside him. We stand together. And we do not fall. The soldiers raised their weapons. Were tired, hurt. But now they had purpose. They had a leader. They had something to believe in. Jack looked at Alira. Remembered the first day he saw her. Small, silent. Hiding now. She stood like a queen. He didn't smile, but something in his chest felt steady. Ready. This time, when the enemy came, they would not face a camp of tired men. They would face warriors. They would face her. The air was thick before the battle. No birds, no wind. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. Jack stood on the wall of the broken outpost, watching the tree line. As the enemy was coming, they could all feel it. Alira stood beside him. Her silver hair moved slightly with the heat. Her face was calm. She had changed. She was no longer the quiet girl taken as a reward. She was something more now. A leader. A force. The soldiers below were ready. They checked weapons, tied armor, placed traps. There was no laughter. Only silence. They had seen what the enemy could do. Jack walked the wall. He looked each soldier in the eye. He didn't say much, just a nod, a tap on the shoulder. They understood. When the first wave came, it came without sound. Black shapes rushed out of the forest. No screams, no war cries, only death. Jack fired first. The rest followed. Bullets hit flesh. Explosions lit up the dark. The monsters charged, fast and wild. Alira raised her hand. A wall of force slammed into the enemy. Bodies flew back. Some were crushed midair. Others burned in blue fire. The line held. Jack moved like a machine. No wasted shots. No wasted steps. He fought beside the men and women who had once mocked him. Now they followed him without question. The monsters broke through the outer traps. Hand-to-hand fighting began. Blood spilled. Screams rose. Alira joined the fight. Not with guns, but with her power. She lifted enemies with a glance. She crushed them with a gesture. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her voice was sharp, giving orders in both human and Varuni tongue. Carl took a blade to the leg, but kept fighting. Nate, once cruel, now stood at Alira's side like a guard. Even the weakest soldiers found strength in her presence. Hours passed. Wave after wave came. The outpost shook, but stood. Bodies piled at the gates. Fire burned in the trees. Ak was bleeding from a cut on his side. He didn't stop. Alira came to him, placed her hand near the wound. Energy passed through him. Pain faded. Strength returned. You have limits, Jack said. So do you, she replied. Then we both pushed past them. She gave a small nod. The final wave came at dusk. The sky turned red. The enemy brought something new. A beast taller than a building, part metal, part flesh. It roared and broke through the walls with one strike. Soldiers ran. Some froze. Jack didn't move. He stood in its path. Alira stepped beside him. "We stop it here," he said. Alira walked forward alone. The beast charged. Jack shouted, but she kept going. She raised both hands. Her whole body lit with blue fire. The ground cracked beneath her. The beast slowed. It swung a giant arm. Alira caught it in the air. The shockwave knocked down trees. Alira screamed. The air shook. The beast dropped to its knees. Then it fell, unmoving. She collapsed. Jack ran to her. Smoke rose from her skin. Her eyes were closed. She was alive, but barely. He picked her up, carried her inside. Others watched in silence. "She saved us," someone said. Jack laid her down gently. Her chest moved slowly. She opened her eyes a little. "They won't come again," she whispered. "You don't know that," Jack said. "Yes," she said, "because I am done hiding." Jack stayed by her side all night. Outside, the others cleaned up the battlefield. They didn't cheer, they didn't rest. They stood watch. Morning came. Alira stood again, weak but standing. The soldiers gathered. She spoke to them. "You are not my people, but you are brave. You fought for life, not power. For that I thank you." Jack looked at her, and for the first time saw no fear in her eyes. No mask. Only truth. She was not a prize. She was not a secret. She was something more. And now everyone knew it. The sky was quiet now. No more shadows moved in the forest. No more creatures hunted in the dark. The battle was over. The soldiers stood in silence, tired but alive. Jack walked the edge of the camp. He checked the walls, watched the sky, and listened. He had done this every day since the fight ended. It was habit now. He didn't trust peace. Not yet. Alira stood outside the command tent. Her steps were slow, but steady. Her strength was coming back. Her eyes were sharp again. She no longer hid her face. She no longer looked weak. The soldiers who saw her nodded with respect. They didn't see a prisoner anymore. They saw a leader. A ship came down from orbit. It was from Earth. Clean and silver, with fresh supplies and high officers. It came to see who had survived. It came to give medals and ask questions. Jack stood in front of them with his rifle across his chest. Alira stood beside him. The officer in charge, a man with cold eyes, looked at her. "Who is this?" Jack said. "She's the reason any of us are still alive." The officer frowned. "You chose her as your reward. Now you protect her like a queen." Jack didn't answer. Alira stepped forward. "I was never a prize. I was the last key to your survival. I chose to help because he chose to believe." The officer didn't like her tone. "You speak well for someone who was captured." Jack stepped closer. She wasn't captured. She hid among the broken to stay alive. Then she stood up when it mattered. The officer looked around at the camp, the soldiers, the scars. He understood enough to stay silent. In the days that followed, more ships landed. Pairs began. Injured were taken away. The dead were burned with honor. Jack stayed. He was offered medals, money, titles, command. He said no to all of it. He stayed with Alira. They walked the ruins together. She showed him varuni tech, old paths, and secrets buried deep. She told him stories of her world, how it fell, how she escaped, how she watched from the shadows. Jack listened. He didn't ask much. He didn't need to. One night they sat by a small fire. No one else was near. The stars above were clear. "You knew from the start," Alira said. "Nada da da da. I knew you were hiding. I didn't know why, but I saw you. Not what you wanted others to see, but what you really were." "And you still chose me?" she asked. "Yes." "Why?" Jack looked at the fire. "Because I don't trust masks. I trust actions. And I trusted what you didn't do. When others begged, you stayed quiet. When others fought, you waited. I saw strength in that." She was quiet for a long time. "My people will come," she said. "They'll want answers. They'll want power back." Jack said, then give them something